And you're watching Rappler Recap. Today is Friday, February 21, and it's the official day for the Victorias City campaign sortie for the Alyansa Para sa Bagong Pilipinas, the anointed slate of the President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. So let's talk about what happened at the rally, right? Because there were a lot of people that came to see not just the performances, but also their senatorial aspirants coming from the Alyansa slate. Now, Negros Occidental and Negros Oriental are very interesting because when this entire Negros Island is combined together, you would get around 2.8 million voters, and we're just basing off estimates coming from the 2022 national elections data from the Commission on Elections. Now, if you compare the voting size, the sheer vote richness of Negros Occidental and Negros Oriental together with the most vote-rich province in the Philippines, which is Cebu, at 3.2 million, then it's a clear close competition, and it's enough to tell anyone that the Negros Island is a very vote-rich area, and for voters there. It's actually quite interesting how they picked candidates in the 2022 national elections, which will tell us a lot more of how they're going to be voting. So let's talk about the demographics there, right? Because in Negros Occidental, Marcos actually lost to former President Leni Robredo for the 2022 elections when they were both running for president. Whereas in the same province of Negros Occidental, Sara Duterte actually was received very well and had won against former vice presidential aspirant Kiko Pangilinan. So there's a contrast happening there in Negros Occidental. But if we zoomed in to the capital, Bacolod City, right? Because Bacolod City is where Mayor Albi Benitez is. The Benitez clan are in Negros Occidental, in Negros. And you would see that Marcos actually won in Bacolod City versus Leni. So as opposed to losing to Leni in the entire province of Negros Occidental, Marcos actually won in in Bacolod City. But that's just the capital. Okay, so let's go back to Albi Benitez as well, because we were talking about how the local voters are going to be choosing Albi Benitez being the mayor. Of course, there's going to be some clear influence on voters and how they're going to be choosing their candidates as well. It matters to local voters who their leaders are going to be choosing as well. And if we can recall, last year, Albi Benitez resigned from Duterte's Partido Demokratiko Pilipino or PDP Laban. After resigning, just months after, decided to join the Partido Federal ng Pilipinas, or the PFP, which is the party that the party chaired by President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. So Benitez was not the only one to leave the Partido, to leave PDP Laban. He also left with at least 60 other officials who also sought, some of them sought slots in Marcos's Partido Federal ng Pilipinas, or PFP. Now, this also brings us to Victoria City, where the rally happened today. Because in Victoria City, you have another Benitez who's mayor of Victoria City, which is northeast of Bacolod. You have Javi Benitez. Now, Javi Benitez is actually a very close friend of the president's son, Sandro Marcos. So there's a dynamic going on there as well, and that could very well go into the kind of campaign that we'll be seeing in the next few months, and the kind of vouching that the local politicians, the local leaders are going to be presenting to the voters there in Negros Occidental. In 2022, actually, in Victoria City, Marcos lost to Leni as well. So it's a contrast for what happened in Bacolod City, but very clear in Negros Occidental that Marcos had lost to Lenny. But that's not the end of it, because in the Negros Oriental, Marcos and Duterte, the former tandem, the former unity in tandem, had dominated Negros Oriental. Now, in Dumaguete City, it's very interesting because they dominated Dumaguete City as well. They won against the Lenny Kiko tandem. In Dumaguete City, you have Mayor Felipe Remulyo. Now, Mayor Felipe Remulyo of Dumaguete City is the Liberal Party's chairperson for the province of Negros Oriental. And he's going to be running for Negros Oriental's 2nd district. He's going to be running as congressman of the 2nd district of Negros Oriental. So it's going to be interesting how that you have an LP pillar here in Dumaguete City, and while they actually met earlier in the day because the president made sure to have official visits in these places in Victoria City and Dumaguete City before these rallies started, just to show, just as a sign of courtesy perhaps, or a show of power maybe, to show who's the boss. And that's not the only thing that we're seeing in terms of engagements, because the senatorial aspirants also had their press conferences before the rallies in Victoria City and in Dumaguete City, where, by the way, the Dumaguete City sortie happened yesterday, Thursday, February 20. But now going back, you have these senatorial aspirants like Ping Lacson, Soto, Camille Villar, and Benhur Abelos, who are all saying that they're going to be helping farmers in Negros. Because when you take a look at Dumaguete City and of course in Victoria City is sugar capital. It's known as the sugar bowl of the Philippines, and there's a lot of sugar farmers there. In Dumaguete City, you also have a lot of farmers there. And their proposals range from institutionalizing the Kadiwa market to buying directly from farmers at least 50% of the produce to support them, and ensuring that they also get financial assistance. So there's a lot of promising to help the local agricultural sector of the Negros island. Now, it doesn't stop there, because when you take a look at how they're trying to woo voters, if you observed or listened to the speeches of President Ferdinand Marcos every time in the Visayas, there's always that clear mention that these senators, besides being experienced, besides having previous positions in government, these senatorial aspirants also have ancestors coming from the Visayas, coming from Eastern Visayas. For Amy Marcos, perhaps it's for Marcos, Bomba Marcos, in highlighted the fact that their mother Imelda Marcos were Waray, and of course there's also the Iloilo ancestry of Camille Villar, and many others also, like Soto as well, whose ancestry goes all the way back in Cebu. So there's always that highlighting that they have candidates who understand the Visayas tone, the Visayas demands and needs, just to deviate from that very Manila-centric view, from that Luzon-centric view, and to remind voters in these regions that the Visayas will be left out in the decision-making. But speaking of decision-making as well, because we know for a fact that Marcos and Duterte are not very well in terms of they're pretty much it's very clear that they're in conflict right now, especially with Vice President Sara Duterte facing impeachment, and so you have Bongbong Marcos saying in his speech that if these senatorial candidates would be elected, they would be there not to oppose but to propose. So that's a very interesting way of putting out that line out in the open, to say something that would come to the effect that these senators would be agreeable and amicable to what the lower house, the lower chamber would want to do in the future. And that's just among the other things that we've noticed coming from Marcos, and of course coming from the senatorial aspirants. Of course, we'll be hearing more coming from the sorties, and very soon enough from the PDP Laban, who are set to, we're hearing they're going to be in Cebu as well. So stay tuned for that, and make sure to have the Rappler Communities app so that you can talk to us, so that you can also let us know what's happening in your provinces, how your provinces are going to be voting, and how your local leaders are going to be picking their senatorial bets as well. So we'll be there on the politics channel of the Rappler Communities app, and of course very much reachable on social media, on our social media channels as well. So once again, you're watching Rappler Recap. I'm John Sichon.